Overreaction. Please stop it. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. We do appreciate you stopping by for the best in discussion, debate, and analysis. And you can join our chat Monday through Saturday, 10 p.m. Eastern Time or post-game. And you're welcome to overreact. But I caution you not to do it. But you are welcome to do it like most college football fans. Illinois, during the preseason, with all the hype coming off 10 wins last year, oh, they're an excellent football team, a college football playoff contender. I said, don't think they're really that good. These are the holes. These are the weaknesses. These are the concerns. We shall see over the course of 12 games, but over the course of a preseason, with all the hype and all the buildup and a top 10 ranking going into the matchup against Indiana after a win against Duke that really wasn't that impressive if you really look into it. This was the number 9 ranked team in the country, and then they get stomped by 53 points against Indiana. Then they are suddenly trash and garbage because of one result. Yes, that's an indicator. It's a data point. Should any of us be surprised that Illinois bounced back to get the win in Champaign against USC as a 6.5-point dog, 34-32. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by. Best in discussion, debate, and analysis. And let's break this one down because this is what we're going to see out of the would-be, wanna-be, desire to be, strive to be upper echelon teams in the Big Ten. Ohio State's there. Penn State's probably there. Oregon's probably there. Michigan's going to show us maybe later that they're there. And then after that, USC, Minnesota, Iowa, Indiana. Most people have elevated them based on a 53-point win, and I get it. That was mighty impressive. We shall see. But entertaining games in the Big Ten, more so than what we had before the 4 teams entered from the West Coast. This example right here, prime example in USC and Illinois, 2 comparable football teams, very different football teams, but comparable. So what did that produce? A thrilling 34-32 finish with the Illini prevailing at home. USC came into the game with an 11-2 series lead. Of course, the last time these 2 teams got together, it was not a good football game. USC Pete Carroll taking on a Illinois team that should not have been in the Rose Bowl and won it 49-17 in one of the worst Rose Bowls ever. Let's move ahead to this action. USC gets a football. They've got a 4th and 1 at their own 45. And this is the way football is played these days. I got to get used to it. 4th and 1 at your own 45. It is worth going for it most of the time. Wayman Jordan, who had a nice day for USC, picked up the first down as Jaden Mayava was taken out or maybe had played a wide receiver position, and USC went 11 on 11 with Jordan taking the direct snap for the first down to convert. 20 carries, 94 yards, and a couple touchdowns for Jordan. USC on its way to a touchdown. However, Jordan was cutting through a perfect block through left tackle. He had a nice lane, but the Illinois defense got the strip, and Jaheim Clark with the recovery at the Illinois 30. It much reminded me at that point of, remember Duke? Duke dominated the first half. Duke looked like the better football team. Duke was the better team along the line of scrimmage, but Illinois made the opportune plays, and many of those opportune plays were actually after Duke had large gains, just like Jordan did on this play. So USC coughs it up. That gives Illinois the football. They march on down the field, and it was Caden Fagan. It was Luke Altmaier rushing the football effectively, and the offensive line for Illinois that was so completely embarrassed and dominated by Indiana last week had a bounce back. Is this Illinois offensive line great? No, much like the Illinois team. They are not as good as maybe we expected them to be, but much, much better than what they showed against Indiana. And of course, Brett Bielema knows how to prepare a football team. Failed to do so last week, looked himself in the mirror, challenged his football team, and they came out. And one way in which you can do that is lean on the offensive line. They get the touchdown 7-0. And I really felt as though, as these teams went back and forth in the first half, when Illinois had the opportunity to go up 21-7, Caden Fagan had taken the ball down to the inch line, and it was ruled a fumble on the field. The ball squirted out. USC picked it up, ran it out to the 25 or 30-yard line. That once they went through the many reviews, unfortunately, it was called a fumble on the field. I know why the officials lean in that direction. If there's a possibility of a fumble, they usually let it play out for good reason, because if they call it dead and it was a fumble, then you have an issue with the recovery. So the officials have been taught and instructed to let a lot of those plays go. However, in this situation, they called it a fumble on the field. It couldn't be reversed based on the evidence from the angles that we saw on television. However, did that look like a fumble? No, it looked like Caden Fagan was down and laying in a mass of humanity, and then somebody knocked the ball out, and it squirted out, and USC gets the football plus 30 yards, and Illinois was that close to taking a 21-7 lead. Jaden Mayava, who had an up-and-down game, was still hot at this point and took USC right down the field. Now, time ran out, or otherwise USC would have had a legitimate shot at a touchdown because they took it inside the 5-yard line, but they only had 5 seconds left and didn't want to risk it. So USC kicked the field goal to make it 14-10, and maybe there could have been, I would have to review that drive, some instances in which USC could have saved some time. And Lincoln Riley's game management late was not great last season and would not be great at the end of this game as well. So 14-10 Illini at that point. Luke Altmaier was sharp. Let's just say it, 20 of 26 for 328. Missed very few throws on this particular drive in which they open up a 17-10 lead on the field goal. He ripped some throws, but he missed badly on a third down play that would have converted and given the Illini a chance to take a more than one score lead, but 17-10 on the field goal after the Altmaier miss. USC offensive line, this should be noted here. So they came into the game missing their left tackle, Elijah Page. Also, during the second quarter, their center, Killian O'Connor, had to leave the game. He did not return. They replaced him with Jean-Ray Reed. Now, even though Reed is a backup, he did play 25 games at Syracuse. However, it was a bit ironic that Reed, not moments later, was the illegal player downfield that negated a USC 75-yard touchdown. So that proved to be key. Jaden Mayava started hot, ended hot, but in the middle, missed a lot of throws, and he took a slump in the second and third quarters, threw a bad interception to Dylan Rosiak. Yes, he was missing some throws at that point, and USC was falling behind as it went to 24-10 as Fagan took a swing pass. And when USC gets this reputation coming in from the West Coast and based on their poor play and substandard play for their program in the last 10 years, that they're soft, that maybe they don't exude the type of effort that other teams do. We saw that manifested on this play. 64-yard touchdown swing pass from Altmaier to Fagan. And the USC secondary, they either took bad angles, one guy undercut the block, so he thought he was fast enough to catch the back behind the block instead of taking the angle upfield, so he was left in the dust. Then you had two other players in Bishop Fitzgerald and Christian Pierce who took bad angles, and one of them just looked like he was jogging. And so USC looked awfully soft and undisciplined on this play, poorly coached, and DeAnton Lynn is one of the best at defensive coordinator, but on this particular play, it looked bad, and it was a 24-10 game. Well, this is when USC needed a playmaker, and they've got one. Well, they've got several, but of course, Mekhi Lemon is one of the best. 11 for 151 with 2 touchdowns. 3rd and 16. So this is a key spot here. Late in the third quarter, down by 14, about to be forced to punt at 3rd and 16. And then you would have Illinois getting the ball back. End of the third quarter, up 14 already. However, Mayava to Lemon to convert 3rd and 16 for 29 yards. Houston's Longstreet came in, the much-heralded 5-star quarterback, for just one play, but it was a 16-yard run down to the goal line to set up the Jordan touchdown to make it 24-17. So we still had a ball game at this point. Altmaier to Bowick. Bowick, the MAC transfer from Eastern Michigan and Ball State, just completely burned Braylon Conley. So Conley had outside leverage. It was easy just to take the slant. The motion play went right. Therefore, it took the safety out of the mix, and Altmaier had an easy touchdown pass as Illinois went up 31-17 at that point. Okay, it's more from Makai Lemon. Beats the Illinois cornerback one-on-one, make it 31-25. Yes, would have been 31-24, but they go for the two-point conversion. We've explained this in the past. I know a lot of people have an issue when you're down by 2 touchdowns. You score the touchdown to get within 8. You, of course, on the surface, the common logic would be you continue to match the other team with the PAT conversions to make it 31-24. Why risk going down 31-23? But I have explained in the past and will fail to do so right now. I'm not going to go into that. But it is a better percentage play, actually, to go for the two-point conversion, and then both times, if you need it, to go for the two-point conversion to set up what we would see here in just a few minutes, because USC cuts it to 31-25. And then later, Makai Lemon again to make it 32-31, as USC only needed the PAT to take the lead, 32-31. However, what is Lincoln Riley doing here? USC's defense has not been able to stop Illinois. They do not have a top unit by any stretch of the imagination. Illinois ran for almost 200 yards. And, hey, if the guy scores the touchdown, if you throw a swing pass, if you throw something over the middle and a guy breaks a couple tackles and runs for the touchdown, obviously you'll take the touchdown and then go play defense and hope for the best. However, when you've got the game under control in regards to the game situation and you're down 31-25, you do need to score the touchdown. However, you don't just toss up 30-yard touchdown passes with $1:45 left on the clock. If you're going to take more than a field goal lead, then it's a different argument. If you're going to go up where the other team has to score a touchdown to win the game, we can make that argument. However, a field goal range in today's football, not a smart play by Lincoln Riley to score with $1:45 left. 32-31. Here goes Illinois right down the field. They ran the football down USC's throats when USC pretty much knew they were going to run the football. And again, USC's secondary not showing up, and USC's defensive line not stout enough to handle a good Big Ten offensive line that was dominated by Indiana last week. Caden Fagan goes for 9 yards. We had a pass interference when USC lost a cornerback and brought in DJ Harvey, and then Altmaier on the quarterback draw. Fagan again for 9 yards, and that set up David Alano for the biggest kick of his career through the uprights. He did squeeze it past the left post, but it's all good straight down the middle in the record book. 34-32, Illinois defeats USC. So, up for the Illini next week, a trip to Purdue. Can't take that lightly. I know Purdue is one of the worst teams in the Big Ten, but much improved with a good coach in Barry Odom. And then remember, last year, even though Illinois was 9-3 in the regular season and Purdue 1-11, they squeaked by and had about 18 ways in which they could have lost a 50-49 overtime game to Purdue. So got to play them each week in the Big Ten. So don't mark that one up for Illinois quite yet. USC at 4-1, go back to the West Coast, but they welcome Michigan. That's going to be a fascinating game, USC and Michigan. So both teams at 4-1 with one loss in the Big Ten. We shall see, because they now need to obviously rip off some victories. Early losses in the Big Ten or in conference play overall are not a good thing. Your thoughts about Illinois, thoughts about USC. I see them both as in that 5 to 7 to 8 range in the Big Ten. Consider that USC went all the way from the West Coast to play an Eastern time zone game at noon and only lost on the last play of the game. So somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. We got to credit the winner. However, take it into perspective. The two teams could play 10 times and split 5, or maybe USC wins 7 times. But the only thing that counts is Illinois won this game. Join us Monday through Saturday for postgame or 10 p.m. Eastern time here at the Voice of College Football. We appreciate your support, contributions. The Amazon link's in the description section of all the videos. When you shop on Amazon, please use our link to contribute to the Voice of College Football. Same shopping experience, does not cost you a penny.